to the Once Upon a Sketch podcast. I'm Wilson Williams Jr.
And I'm Norman Grock.
In our podcast series, we'll be presenting interviews, insights, education, and news about the many facets of the children's illustration market, from children's books to character design, storyboarding, toys, and licensed products. We'll use our quest for knowledge to help educate you on your journey to success. Hello to all of our readers and listeners. We wanted to check in with you guys and give you a special edition of our podcast. We figured that it was a good time for us to come in between the different interviews and roundtables and things that we do and give a little bit of our personal feelings about different things that we're dealing with within our personal businesses, and also some of our personal reactions to some of the interviews and things that we've done. Most notably, the past interview that we just did with Adobe, that we definitely felt like we needed to come back in and give a little bit of input on how we thought the podcast and interview went. So before we get to our reactions to that podcast, we wanted to talk up a little bit about the different things that we have going on with us. So how's everything going, Mr. Norm?
Things are going good. I've been sitting around drawing a coloring book all day, so I'm really tired of football players.
You're doing a coloring book with football players?
Yeah, it's for a school. It's
for elementary or high school or
what can I talk about after I sign that NDA? It's a coloring book about football players. Okay, well, that's all. Yeah, we'll leave it at that then. How about you? Do you have any interesting projects you're working on?
Well, I just finished up a couple of interesting things. I just finished up a new ebook that is going to be coming out in September, and I'll be announcing that on the blog at some point. And I just finished up another book project for a Christian publisher that was pretty fun to work on. So lots of cool little things, and now I'm in the process of updating my website and getting ready to send out mailers to new potential clients for the following year and all that kind of stuff. So, and also recovering from my computer crashing and my hard drive dying and having to replace my computer. Fun times.
So, you got a brand new one?
Yeah, it's brand new. Luckily, I had two hard drives, and most of my client information and stuff was on the hard drive that didn't die. So, had to get a new computer, and they put the second hard drive in it. So, woohoo! I got to save all that, but lost all my links and favorites and all that kind of stuff. And I had a lot of stuff saved in my browser. And actually, somebody made a cool post recently on our blog. A response to one of our posts, I should say, about a good resource for people to use to save their favorites and bookmarks and all those types of things in a secondary place so that if something happens on your hard drive, it doesn't get lost. So I have to post about that a little bit later on. But it's definitely a lesson learned, a very big lesson learned, and I wrote a post about that as well, about the things that I should have been doing and what I definitely will be doing going forward, because it's all through the night after the hard drive had crashed, all I was thinking about was how much stuff was potentially gone and how many clients was I, really potentially messing up by having lost all of that information. So it was really bad on my part not to be doing my due diligence and backing things up the way they were supposed to be. And it wasn't that I didn't have the resources to be able to back things up. I just wasn't doing it, and that's just... There's no excuse for that. It's unprofessional. So I definitely learned a big lesson. But yeah, new computer now.
Nice. And so now that you got a new computer, are you going to be sticking with the Adobe software that you're using now, or are you going to upgrade?
No. After the conversation that we had with the guys from Adobe, it really had helped me solidify my plan for what I was going to do going forward with the Creative Cloud situation. So I'm probably I'm going up to 6, and I'm going to ride things out from there. So that's a great transition for us, actually, to go ahead and speak a little bit on what we thought about the interview and what our plans are going to be going forward on how to deal with the Creative Cloud situation. So I know for me, I'm going to go ahead and get 6, and pretty much just ride it out until I don't have to anymore. As they say, ride it until the wheels fall off. And then I'll take another look at the landscape and see what other options have shown up, or if Adobe has changed its situation and is offering more options, maybe cheaper, or whatever the case may be. See how their actions affect the reactions from other people and other companies that are out there who are willing to provide a secondary option for the Adobe products. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, my biggest takeaway from that conversation was that Adobe is going to continue to support CS6. So, if I ever do move to the cloud, then I'll still have that base software that I own. And, with a little bit of planning, I'd be able to move backwards if I ever had to cut myself off from the cloud.
Right.
So,
because I think you're talking what you're talking about is that's the last perpetual license that they're going to allow for things to be backwards compatible to.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we said, I think that confused people too. When we kept saying perpetual license, people were like, "What does that mean?" I think a lot of people thought that once you bought the Adobe software before, that you owned it, that it was yours and you could do anything and everything with it that you wanted to. When really what you bought was a perpetual license. You only bought the ability to use it as much as they kind of allowed you to use it.
Yep.
You never buy it and own it outright.
I think
that's a misnomer. I think that happens when people buy something. They assume that it's theirs and theirs alone, and unfortunately that's not really the case. So with Adobe, the last perpetual license that they're going to make everything backwards compatible to is going to be 6, right, which is for me, which will be the next. But I have been hearing that it's kind of buggy, so that's kind of got me worried a little bit. But I guess that's something that we'll investigate a little bit later on.
You heard that 6 was buggy?
Yeah, I've heard from some of the different things that I've seen in forums and things. Some people are saying that 6 is still a little bit shaky and people are having problems with it. So the big fear there is that if they're not going to be providing support for it, if it's not working properly, does that mean that they're not going to correct those problems, and that the only way to correct those problems is going to be to upgrade to the next stage, which would be CC? Hopefully that's not the case. I have to do a little bit more research on it before I say anything definitively about that. But I have heard some people saying that 6 is still a little bit wobbly. Just like, for the new computer that I've got, I know people were probably wondering, like, I went from XP to Windows 7. And people were probably thinking, well, why didn't you go up to 8 or one of their higher operating systems that they have for the PC? And it's because, from what I understood, some of the newer operating systems are still a lot, really buggy. So I just went to the one that I've heard that most people feel fairly secure about. So sometimes getting the newest one isn't always the best one, At least not until they work out all the bugs.
Right.
So,
did you have any more thoughts about our conversation with Terry?
Well, I think with it was the conversation I think we got from him was what I expected. I think any of us that are illustrators, I think we recognize that what we do is a business, and recognize that what Adobe does is a business. I don't think I was really expecting Terry to come through and really tell us, yep, Adobe is out just for the bottom dollar, rather than looking out for their clients. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that they're really going to come through and really tell people what it is that everybody's thinking is going on with the company. But I think you have to recognize that Adobe is a company whose bottom line ultimately is to stay profitable and make money. And since there are a number of other companies that are switching to those subscription models, I think it was really only a matter of time before they did the same. And then I think all of us are going to have different reactions to it and how we're going to deal with it or not be able to deal with it. But there's obviously been a huge outcry from the majority of the people within our community that the reaction has not been good. So we'll see what happens with it. But I was pleasantly surprised with the conversation, actually.
I thought the conversation was really good. Yeah, lot of good information.
A lot of great information, and I think there was different little things that led us into sort of the mindset and how they're thinking about it and how they're approaching it. And I think, and even some of the realization, even on their end, that, like he was saying, that they really have to step their game up at this point. That for them to stay viable within our market, they're going to have to produce. Either they're going to have to give us something that's so out of the norm and so far and above what everybody else offers that it makes people want to pay that additional amount of money to subscribe to their programs. Or, then if they don't, then, they're going to lose people that are going to go for another option as those other options become available. So.
Yeah, for me, I'm stuck. Like, I could find a replacement for Photoshop anytime. There's a lot of good ones out there, but InDesign for me, like, there's no going to Quark. that's gone away, and there's no real other page layout program. So if I'm going to buy one at this point, I might as well get the whole bundle. So I have the software.
Yeah, I think it's like we said. Like we said in the interview. That the people anybody who, that at least that I know, that is bought into the system, that is a part of the Creative Cloud, they enjoy the product and what's available, and especially if they're the type of person that uses multiple programs from Adobe, and they're also the type of person that updates every single time Adobe puts out a new update for their software. Like I was saying, I was on CS2, and they're currently on 6. So it's obvious that I haven't upgraded for 4 generations of the 4+ generations of the program. So for me, paying all of that money for all of those additional upgrades that I wouldn't really need or want would be me just kind of throwing money out the window. So that's what they've got to deal with. Those are the people that are going to have the biggest problems. Is the people that wouldn't be spending that much. But for the people who would be spending that much, it's a deal.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's definitely to the people's benefits to do so if that's the type of business model that they're working from.
So the bottom line for you is you're going to stick with CS6, or you're going to upgrade to CS6.
Yep, I'm going to get CS6 and ride it till the wheels fall off. Ride it until I can't ride it no more.
And and I'm going to, well, probably not ride it till the wheels fall off, but I'm going to get 6 and stick with it until I'm ready to go to the cloud.
Yeah, there you go. That works. Well, the other thing that we wanted to announce is we have a fan contest coming up. We're very close to getting 1,000 likes on Facebook, and we already have over 1,000 followers on Twitter. So what me and Norm were thinking is that every time we pass that 1,000 mark on both accounts, on Twitter and on Facebook, then we were going to try to have a contest of sorts and give some prizes away to our readers and listeners. So rules for the contest and all the details are over on the Once Upon a Sketch blog. So we'll have a link to it in our show notes over on the blog for this podcast. So if you hop over there and check it out, you'll see exactly what you need to do to be in consideration, and let you know when we're going to announce the contest and how you can be a participant for some of the lovely, lovely, lovely prizes that we'll be making available to 2 of our readers and listeners.
We'd also like to remind you to head over to iTunes and leave a review for the podcast. We don't have a whole lot right now, and we'd love to start getting a lot of your comments and feedback. What we can do better, if I should be replaced on the podcast. Whatever you want, put it up there.
Another thing is, it really helps our placement on iTunes as well. The more comments you get, the more likes you get, the higher up in the ranking you go, and the more people are able to see you and go, oh, who are these people? Let's listen to what they're talking about. And that definitely, all of those things works for us in our favor. So if you can, instead of commenting on, because I know we're in a few places, so instead of commenting on YouTube maybe or some of those other places, if you could go to iTunes and comment there, it would be fantastic. And also, we want to remind everybody that we are open to guest contributors, articles, and questions. So we also have a link up in the show notes that gives you directions, another post that gives you directions on how to submit potential articles to our site. And you can become one of those fabled people over on the right-hand column that are now considered guest contributors. So definitely check those things out. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions that you have about the industry that you want to ask us, and we can field those and answer them in one of our quick casts in the future, that would be great. We love to hear from you guys all the time, always. So, anything else you need to add in, Mr. Norm?
No, man, I think you pretty much covered it all.
Oh, that's good. Well, I think that pretty much covers everything for this quick cast. We'll definitely be doing more of these in the future. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for listening in.
Yep, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us for this podcast. Be sure to come by our blog to find articles, interviews, and resources to help fuel your education and growth. You can find us at onceuponasketch.com, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube.